She was just a cleaner, until she taught 7 languages to the millionaire's wheelchair-bound son. Megan Taylor was mopping the marble floors of the Anderson mansion when she heard the wheelchair-bound boy shouting incomprehensible words upstairs. His cries echoed through the empty hallways, mixing frustration with something she recognized immediately: deep loneliness. Little Noah, just 6 years old, was desperately pointing at a whiteboard in his hands while his new private tutor packed up her materials. She was the 5th educator to give up that month. Megan, who had worked as a cleaner in the mansion for 3 years, knew this scene well. The blonde boy with piercing blue eyes was trying to communicate through frantic gestures, but no one seemed to understand what he wanted to say. "It's no use, Mr. Anderson," the tutor said to the businessman who had just arrived. "Your son has severe cognitive limitations on top of his paralysis. He'll never be able to learn." Richard Anderson, one of the wealthiest men in New York City and owner of a chain of private hospitals, stiffened. Megan watched from the doorway, still holding her mop bucket and rag. The millionaire always wore a stern expression, especially when it came to his son. "So you're telling me my son is a lost cause?" His voice was icy. "I'm being realistic. Noah can't even form basic words in English. How do you expect him to learn anything?" Megan saw the exact moment the boy understood what was being said about him. His blue eyes welled with tears, and he threw the whiteboard to the ground with force. The sound of it hitting the floor echoed down the hall. "You may leave," Richard ordered the tutor. "I'll have your payment sent." As the woman hurried out, Megan stepped forward slowly. There was something about the scribbles on the whiteboard that caught her eye. They weren't random marks, as everyone assumed. "Excuse me, Mr. Richard," she said softly. The businessman turned, surprised. In 3 years, Megan rarely spoke unless necessary. "What is it, Megan?" She knelt near the fallen whiteboard and pointed at the symbols. "This here. This is Mandarin. This symbol means help." Richard stared at her as if she'd just spoken in Martian. "How would you know that?" "My mother was the daughter of Chinese immigrants. I learned a few things as a child." Noah, still in his blue wheelchair, widened his eyes. For the first time in months, someone had understood something he was trying to say. "That's impossible." Richard shook his head. "Noah can barely speak English. How would he know how to write in Chinese?" Megan stood up, her orange cleaning gloves contrasting with the luxurious surroundings. "Maybe young Noah is trying to communicate in other ways, sir. Maybe the problem isn't his. Are you implying this is my fault?" Richard's tone turned threatening. "No, sir. I'm just saying—" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Sometimes we look for one thing and miss what's right in front of us." Noah began gesturing frantically, pointing at Megan and then at himself. His guttural sounds seemed desperate. "He's having another episode." Richard sighed, exhausted. "Megan, finish cleaning and go to the kitchen. I'll call the doctor." But Megan didn't move. She watched the boy's gestures intently. "Mr. Richard, may I try something?" "You? You're a cleaner, Megan, not a therapist or a teacher." "I know. But what do you have to lose? All the tutors have already given up anyway." Richard was about to dismiss her when Noah managed to utter a sound that resembled a word. "Her! Her!" Father and employee exchanged glances, stunned. Is he trying to say her? Richard moved closer to his son. Noah nodded vigorously, pointing at Megan. "Sir, just give me half an hour with him. If I don't get anywhere, I promise I'll never interfere again." Richard checked his gold watch. He had an important meeting in 2 hours. 15 minutes, not a second more. Megan knelt in front of Noah's wheelchair, meeting him at eye level. She took off her orange gloves and picked up the whiteboard from the floor. "Noah, do you understand what I'm saying?" The boy nodded. "Do you know any other languages besides Mandarin?" The boy's eyes lit up. He grabbed the marker and began drawing different symbols. Megan recognized some. There were characters that looked like Japanese, others resembling Arabic, and some she couldn't identify. "My God," she whispered, "where did you learn this?" Noah pointed to the television in the corner of the room, then to the tablet on the table, and finally to the bookshelf full of books. "You taught yourself? Watching TV and using the internet?" Another nod. Richard watched the scene, stunned. "This doesn't make sense," he murmured. "The doctors said he had severe intellectual disabilities." Megan turned to her employer. "Mr. Richard, when was the last time you actually talked to your son? Not about doctors or therapies, but really talked." The businessman hesitated. "I work a lot. I do all this for him. What if he doesn't need more doctors? What if he just needs someone who understands him?" Noah began writing frantically on the whiteboard. Megan recognized words in different languages. Lonely in French, soul in Spanish, solo in German. "He's saying he feels alone," she translated, her voice breaking. Richard took a step back, as if struck. "But he has everything. The best. Doctors, imported therapists, toys, technology, except what he needs most," Megan said softly. "Human connection." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now back to the story. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Noah's marker on the whiteboard. He drew what looked like a stick figure next to another figure in a chair. "Is that you and him?" Megan asked. Noah shook his head. He pointed to Megan and then to himself. "You want me to spend time with you?" The boy nodded so vigorously he nearly knocked over the board. Richard cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. "Megan, you have your duties. I can't pay overtime for you to play teacher." "You don't need to pay extra, sir. I can do this. During my lunch break." "Why? Why would you do that?" Megan looked at Noah, who watched her with heartbreaking hope. "Because I know what it's like to be invisible, Mr. Richard. I've worked here 3 years and you never knew I speak other languages. You never asked where I'm from, if I have family, dreams. I'm just the cleaner." The words hit Richard like arrows. "I didn't know you." "Exactly, you didn't know. Just like you don't know your son is brilliant. He taught himself languages, sir. Do you have any idea how extraordinary that is?" Noah began clapping, his guttural sounds joyful, for the first time in months. "1 week," Richard said abruptly. "You have 1 week to show me results. If there's real progress, we'll discuss a more permanent arrangement." "Thank you, sir. But I want daily reports, and don't let it interfere with your regular work." Megan agreed. When Richard left for his meeting, she turned to Noah. "Now show me everything you know, little genius." The next few hours were eye-opening. Noah didn't just recognize words in different languages, he understood complex grammatical structures. Her mind worked like a sponge, absorbing language patterns through drawings, movies, and educational programs she watched. The problem wasn't cognitive, it was physical. The paralysis affected his fine motor control and his ability to speak, but his mind was perfectly intact. More than that, it was brilliant. Megan discovered he had developed his own communication system, blending elements of different languages to express concepts he couldn't verbalize in English. "Noah, you're amazing," she said, genuinely awestruck. "But why didn't you ever show this to your father?" The boy took his tablet and painstakingly typed, "He doesn't have time, always busy. Doctors say I'm dumb." "You're not dumb, you're the smartest person I've ever met." Tears streamed down the boy's face. Megan gently wiped them away. "Here's what we'll do. I'll teach you to communicate better and you teach me all these languages. Deal?" Noah smiled. A genuine, radiant smile that completely transformed his expression. In the days that followed, Megan developed a routine. She arrived an hour early, prepared materials during breaks, and spent lunchtime with Noah. The progress was astonishing. In 3 days, they established an efficient communication code. Noah pointed to cards with words in different languages, and Megan responded in the same language, creating complex conversations. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Richard kept his distance, watching skeptically, and there was another presence in the house who began noticing the changes: Victoria Anderson, Noah's mother. Victoria was a beautiful woman, but perpetually unhappy. She spent her days between social engagements and beauty appointments, rarely interacting with her son. To her, Noah was a constant reminder of her failure to give Richard the perfect heir he wanted. "What's going on here?" she asked as she entered the makeshift study room on the 4th day. Megan was sitting on the floor with Noah, surrounded by colorful cards with words in different alphabets. "Mrs. Victoria, I'm helping Noah with communication. You, the cleaning lady? The disdain in her voice was palpable. Has Richard completely lost his mind? Mr. Richard was the one who authorized it, ma'am. Victoria stepped closer, her high heels clicking on the floor. Listen carefully, Megan. I know exactly what you're doing. Trying to take advantage of the situation, make some extra money, but it won't work. I'm not getting anything. Extra, ma'am. Then it's even worse. You're trying to seduce my husband through his son. Megan felt her blood boil but kept her composure. I'm just trying to help Noah. Help? Victoria laughed, a joyless sound. You're giving him false hope. Noah will never be normal. The best specialists in the country have already confirmed that. It was then that Noah did something astonishing. He grabbed his tablet and typed quickly, turning the screen toward his mother. In large letters it read in Spanish, "Entiendo todo lo que dices, mamá." Victoria paled. What? What does that mean? It means, I understand everything you say, Mum. Megan translated softly. The tablet slipped from Victoria's hands. She looked at her son as if seeing him for the first time. Out, you understand Spanish? Noah nodded. Then he typed, and French and German and Mandarin and Japanese and Arabic and Italian. That's impossible. Victoria took a step back. You're tricking him, putting ideas in his head. Mrs. Victoria, Noah learned all this on his own. He's extraordinary. No, Victoria shouted. I won't allow this. You're confusing everything, creating problems where there aren't any. Noah needs to accept his limitations, not live in fantasies. She stormed out, slamming the door. Megan and Noah sat in silence for a long moment. She's afraid, Noah typed slowly. Afraid of what? Listen, that I'm more than she expected, that she would have to truly love me. The depth of the observation left Megan speechless. How could a 6-year-old have such clarity about the emotional complexities of the adults around him? That evening, Megan was called into Richard's office. Victoria was there, arms crossed. Megan, my wife has some concerns about your method. Richard, this is madness, Victoria interrupted. An uneducated janitor playing teacher. Will be sued when she causes psychological harm to the boy. What harm, Victoria? For the first time in years, I saw Noah smile today. Smile? He's being deceived. This woman is filling his head with impossibilities. Megan took a deep breath. May I speak? Richard nodded. Mr. Richard, Mrs. Victoria, I understand the concerns. But in just 4 days, Noah has shown abilities no one suspected. He isn't learning languages now, he already knew them. He just needed someone to listen. Listen? Victoria laughed bitterly. He can barely speak. There are many forms of communication beyond speech, ma'am. Oh, please, next you'll say he's a misunderstood genius. What if he is? Richard interjected, surprising both women. What if our son is exactly that? Richard, don't be ridiculous. Ridiculous is ignoring evidence, Victoria. Megan, continue. But I want documentation of everything. Videos, written records. If my son is truly special, as you suggest, I want proof. Megan agreed. Victoria stormed out, slamming the office door. Mr. Richard, may I ask you something? Go ahead. Why do you keep your distance from Noah? The businessman stood, walking to the window. When Noah was born, I had so many plans. My heir, my successor. When we discovered his paralysis, I didn't know how to handle it. Every time I look at him, I see my dreams shattered. What if your dreams were too small? Richard turned, staring at her. What do you mean? You dreamed of an heir for your business. But what if Noah is meant for something greater? What if he could be a bridge between cultures, a universal translator, a linguistic genius? You truly believe that? Spend an hour with him tomorrow, just 1 hour, see for yourself. Richard hesitated, then agreed. The next day, the mansion was in chaos. Victoria had called her mother-in-law, Mrs. Margaret, matriarch of the Anderson family, ranting about the audacious janitor who was disrupting the peace of the house. Mrs. Margaret arrived like a hurricane. At 75, she carried herself like a queen and had the sharp tongue of a warrior. Where is this young woman causing all the trouble? She demanded as she entered. Megan was with Noah in the study. The boy held cards with the word grandmother written in 12 different languages. You must be Megan, Mrs. Margaret said without preamble. Yes, ma'am. Pleasure to meet you. The pleasure would be mine if you weren't turning my family upside down. What do you think you're doing? Noah answered. He held up a card with Hebrew characters. What's that? Mrs. Margaret asked. It's grandmother in Hebrew, Megan translated. Safta. Noah raised another card, this one with Arabic script, and this is Jada, grandmother in Arabic. One by one, Noah displayed the cards. Russian, Hindi, Korean, Swahili, Greek. Mrs. Margaret slowly sat down, eyes wide. He knows all this. He taught himself, Mom, watching educational programs, using apps, recognizing patterns. Your grandson is a prodigy. My God, Mrs. Margaret pressed a hand to her chest. And we thought that he was limited? Megan offered gently. The only limits Noah has are the ones others place on him. Noah typed something on his tablet and showed it to his grandmother. Thank you for coming to see me, Grandma. It's been a while since you last came. Tears streamed down the matriarch's face. My boy, my dear boy, forgive me. Forgive your foolish grandmother. She embraced Noah, who hugged her back tightly. Megan discreetly left the room, giving them privacy. In the hallway, she found Richard arriving for the promised session. How's it going? He asked. Your mother is in there with him. I think it's best to wait a little. They heard laughter coming from the room. Mrs. Margaret was trying to pronounce words in Mandarin, while Noah patiently corrected her with gestures. I've never heard my mother laugh like that, Richard remarked, surprised. Noah has that effect on people. When they allow themselves to see beyond the wheelchair. Richard studied her. You're different, Megan. Why do you care so much? Megan hesitated before answering. My younger brother had Down syndrome. Everyone said he'd never amount to anything. But my mother never gave up. Today he has a job. Friends, a full life. I learned that labels are just words. What matters is what we do despite them. Your brother was lucky to have you. No, I was lucky to have him. He taught me to see beauty where others see flaws. The door opened, and Mrs. Margaret stepped out, her face streaked with tears, but radiant. Richard, your son is extraordinary, and you're a fool for not seeing it sooner. Mom, don't mum me. How much time have you wasted? How much love have you denied because of your ridiculous expectations? She turned to Megan. Young lady, you have my blessing. Do whatever it takes. That boy will shine, and woe to anyone who tries to stop him. After Mrs. Margaret left, Richard entered the room. Noah greeted him cautiously, unaccustomed to his father's presence. Hi, son, Richard said awkwardly. Can I see what you've been learning? The next 2 hours changed everything. Richard discovered a son who not only understood multiple languages, but had a sharp awareness of the world around him. Noah showed how he identified linguistic patterns, connecting etymological roots between seemingly unrelated languages. He understands that English, German, Spanish, and Italian have Latin origins, Megan explained. That's why he learns them together. It's a method linguists take years to master. And he's 6 years old, Richard murmured, amazed. Age is just a number, sir. His ability transcends that. By the end of the session, Richard was transformed, but transformation breeds resistance, and Victoria wasn't willing to accept change. That night, Megan was awakened by a phone call. It was the mansion's housekeeper. Megan, you'd better come quickly. Mrs. Victoria is making a scene. Megan lived 40 minutes from the mansion, in a small apartment on the outskirts. She caught the first available bus, her heart heavy. When she arrived, she found Victoria in Noah's room, throwing out all the materials Megan had prepared. It's over, she screamed. This nonsense ends now. Noah was crying desperately, trying to protect his flashcards and books. Mrs. Victoria. Please, Megan tried to intervene. You! Victoria turned, her face twisted with rage. You destroyed my family. My husband won't talk about anything else. My mother-in-law calls every hour asking about her little genius grandson. You've turned my life into hell. Noah isn't to blame for that, ma'am. Noah should have accepted his place. He should have stayed quiet, invisible, without causing trouble. What did you want him to be? Megan asked, her voice trembling with indignation. Honestly? Victoria laughed hysterically. Sometimes I wished he didn't exist at all, that he had... She stopped, but the unspoken words hung in the air like poison. Noah stopped crying. His blue eyes stared at his mother with devastating maturity. She picked up the tablet and typed a single word, turning the screen toward her. No. Victoria recoiled as if she'd been slapped. You didn't... Noah typed more. Always knew. Heard you say it on the phone. Many times. The silence that followed was deafening. Megan held Noah protectively. Mrs. Victoria, respectfully, I think you should leave. Who do you think you are to order me out of my son's room? Someone who truly cares about him. You're nothing, a maid, a nobody. Maybe, but I'm the nobody who saw your sons, worth when you only saw flaws. The argument was interrupted by Richard's arrival, alerted by security. What's going on here? Your wife was destroying Noah's study materials, Megan explained. Victoria, is this true? They're driving me crazy, Richard. This boy speaking strange languages, this woman meddling in everything. Enough, Richard said firmly. Victoria, go to our room. We'll talk later. You're choosing her over me. I'm choosing our son. Victoria stormed out, stomping her feet. Richard knelt beside Noah. It's okay, champ. Daddy's here. Noah typed, why does Mum hate me? Richard closed his eyes, pain evident on his face. She doesn't hate you, son. She just struggles with things she doesn't understand. Megan understands me, Noah typed. Yes, Richard looked at Megan gratefully. She does. In the following days, the household dynamic changed drastically. Richard rearranged his schedule to spend at least 2 hours daily with Noah. Mrs. Margaret became a frequent visitor, bringing books in various languages. And Victoria. Victoria isolated herself in her wing of the mansion, refusing to participate. Megan, meanwhile, juggled her cleaning duties and sessions with Noah. The boy progressed exponentially. Within 2 weeks, he could structure complex sentences in 7 different languages through his communication system. But every change comes at a cost. Megan, we need to talk, said Deborah, the head maid, one evening. About what? About knowing your place. The other staff are talking. You're getting too full of yourself, trying to be more than you are. I'm just helping Noah. Helping, you're blurring the lines. Some maids have worked here 20 years and never been invited to the family table. You've been here 3 years and already want to be a private tutor. Mr. Richard authorized it. Mr. Richard is charmed by the novelty, but it'll fade, and when it does, you'll fall hard. Megan felt the weight of the warning. It was true. Her position was precarious. She was still just the cleaner, no matter how many languages she knew or how much Noah improved. The tension exploded on a rainy Thursday. Megan arrived for work to find her personal belongings thrown in the garden. What is this? She asked the security guard. Orders from Mrs. Victoria. You're fired. But Mr. Richard. Mr. Richard left last night. Business emergency. Mrs. Victoria is in charge. Megan felt the ground give way. How would she explain this to Noah? How would the boy react? She tried to argue, to plead, but was escorted off the property. From the street, she could see Noah's bedroom window. The boy was there, pounding on the glass, his face twisted in despair. The next few hours were a blur. Megan tried calling Richard, but his phone was out of range. She attempted to return to the mansion, but security had strict orders to keep her out. It was Mrs. Margaret who found her, sitting on the sidewalk in front of the mansion, drenched by the rain. My dear, what are you doing out here? Megan explained everything through tears. Mrs. Margaret's face hardened. That viper. You waited for my son to leave before making your move. Come with me. Where to? To my house. We need to plan a strategy. Victoria may have won a battle, but the war is far from over. At the Anderson mansion, Noah had collapsed. He refused to eat, leave his room, or interact with anyone. His screams echoed through the halls, and none of the staff could calm him. See what that woman did, Victoria said to the doctor, who had been urgently called. She made my son dependent on her. It's sick. The doctor, Dr. Miller, examined Noah with concern. Mrs. Anderson, your son is in severe emotional shock. What happened? I dismissed a maid who crossed the line. The young woman who was teaching him languages. How do you know about that? Your husband called me 2 weeks ago, thrilled with the progress. He said it was miraculous. Miraculous? It was a sham. A manipulation. The doctor looked at her seriously. Ma'am, I saw the videos your husband sent me. That boy shows extraordinary language skills. Why would you dismiss the only person who managed to connect with him? Because, Victoria stammered. Because it's not natural. It's not how things should be. And how should they be, in your opinion? Victoria didn't answer. She couldn't say out loud that she preferred a withdrawn, silent son over a genius who would demand attention, care, and real love. Meanwhile, at Mrs. Margaret's house, Megan and the matriarch were making a plan. My son returns tomorrow, said Mrs. Margaret. When he finds out what Victoria did, there will be consequences. I don't want to cause problems in their marriage. Dear, their marriage has been a problem for years. Victoria uses Noah as an excuse, but the truth is, she never loved my son. She married for money, for status, and now that Noah has shown he's special, she feels threatened. Threatened by what? By the possibility of having to be a real mother, of having real responsibilities. It's easier to ignore a child with problems than to dedicate yourself to a genius who needs constant stimulation. Megan stayed up all night thinking about Noah. How was he? Was he eating? Could he sleep? The answer came the next morning in a desperate call from Richard. Megan, thank God. Where are you? At your mother's house, Mr. Richard. Listen, I just got back. Noah he's not well. He hasn't eaten in 2 days, won't let anyone near him. Megan, I need you here, now. But Mrs. Victoria doesn't run this house, I do, and I'm ordering you to come back immediately. I'll send a car for you. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now back to the story. Megan's return to the mansion was triumphant, yet tense. When Noah saw her, he practically leaped from his wheelchair, his arms desperately reaching out. Easy, my love, easy. She hugged him tightly. I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. The boy sobbed uncontrollably, clinging to her as if afraid she'd disappear again. Richard watched the scene, visibly moved. Megan, I need you to understand something. You're no longer the maid of this house. Starting today, you're officially Noah's educational tutor, with a proper salary and benefits. Mr. Richard, No arguments. My son needs you. I need you. Victoria appeared in the doorway, her face twisted in fury. This is absurd, Richard. You can't just... I can and I will. Victoria, you deliberately sabotaged our son's well-being. That's unforgivable. I was protecting our family. From what? From happiness? From progress? From love? From ridicule? Imagine when our friends find out we have a maid pretending to be a teacher. Then they'll know, Richard said calmly. And if they don't accept it, they're not true friends. You're ruining our reputation because of this. Watch your words, Victoria. This woman has done more for our son in 3 weeks than we have in 6 years. The argument was interrupted by Noah, who frantically typed on his tablet and showed the screen to his parents. Stop fighting. Please. I just want to learn. I just want to be loved. The silence that followed was broken by the sound of Victoria storming out of the room. Richard knelt beside his son. You are loved, Noah. Daddy loves you so much. And we'll learn together, okay? Noah nodded, but his eyes searched for Megan, for she was his anchor, his translator to a world that was finally starting to make sense. In the weeks that followed, Noah's transformation was meticulously documented. Megan created a unique teaching method, combining visual, tactile, and auditory stimuli. Noah didn't just recognize words in different languages, he began to grasp the cultural nuances behind them. Look, Megan showed Richard during a session. In Japanese, there are different ways to say I, depending on the social context. Noah understands this intuitively. How is that possible? Because he doesn't learn languages the way we adults do. He absorbs patterns, recognizes structures. It's like his brain works like a linguistic supercomputer. Richard watched, in awe as Noah switched between languages as easily as changing TV channels. But success has its enemies. Victoria, isolated in her wing of the mansion, schemed. She had hired a lawyer to question Richard's mental competence. My husband is clearly going through some kind of crisis, she said over the phone. elevated a maid to a position of authority, spending fortunes on bizarre educational materials. On the other end, the lawyer took notes. And the boy? Noah is easily manipulated. That woman has bewitched him somehow. I need to protect my interests. I mean, my family's well-being. What Victoria didn't know was that Noah, in the next room, heard everything. His sharp language skills included lip reading in multiple languages, a skill he'd developed watching foreign films without subtitles. That night, Noah showed Megan a message he had written. "Mom wants to take Dad away. I heard her talking to a bad man." Megan felt her blood run cold. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" Noah nodded vigorously, then wrote, "She said Dad is crazy because of you, that they'll commit him. We need to tell your father." But Richard was on another business trip, this time overseas. Megan tried calling, but the calls wouldn't go through. It was Mrs. Margaret who took charge. "That venomous snake," she growled when Megan told her, "thinking of having my son declared incompetent over my dead body." The matriarch summoned her own lawyers, preparing a counterattack. But Victoria was faster. 2 days later, court officers arrived at the mansion with a legal order. Richard was to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, and until then, Victoria would have full control over decisions regarding Noah. "This is outrageous," Megan protested. "It's the law, ma'am," the officer replied. "Mrs. Anderson has presented concerning evidence about her husband's mental state." "What evidence?" "Excessive spending, erratic decisions, trust placed in unqualified people." Megan realized every act of kindness from Richard was being twisted against him. Victoria appeared triumphant. "Megan, you have 1 hour to leave this house permanently." "Noah will return to proper medical care." "Enough of this language quackery." Megan looked at Noah, who watched everything from his wheelchair. The desperation in his eyes was palpable. "Please, Mrs. Victoria, don't do this to him. I'm doing what's best for my son. Something you, with no children and no formal education, could never understand." That's when Noah did something no one expected. With tremendous effort, he forced his vocal cords to produce sounds. They weren't perfect words, but they were understandable. No, go, me, gan. Everyone froze. It was the first time in years Noah had verbalized anything beyond guttural noises. "He's speaking!" Megan exclaimed, tears streaming down her face. "Satan, stay, please, hasa." Noah continued, each syllable a battle. Even Victoria seemed shaken, but her determination outweighed her compassion. Vocal tricks changed nothing. "Megan, leave." Mum, bad," Noah managed to say, staring directly at Victoria, her face twisted. "How dare you? True, that hurts," he finished. Megan hugged Noah one last time. "I'll find a way back," she whispered. "I promise." As she was escorted out, Megan heard Noah's screams echoing through the mansion. But now they weren't just screams. They were words in multiple languages, a polyglot chorus of despair that broke the hearts of everyone who heard. Outside, Mrs. Margaret waited for her. "This isn't over," the matriarch vowed. "Victoria may have won this round, but she underestimates the power of a furious grandmother. What now? Now, my dear, we go to war. And I have a few cards up my sleeve that my daughter-in-law doesn't know about." As it turned out, Mrs. Margaret wasn't just a wealthy, respectable lady. In her youth, she had built the family empire, alongside her late husband with her own hands. She knew every lawyer, judge, and important authority in the city. "Victoria made a mistake," she said as they drove. "She forgot the money funding her lifestyle comes from my family, not hers." In the days that followed, an epic legal battle unfolded. On one side, Victoria and her lawyers arguing Richard's mental instability. On the other, Mrs. Margaret and her team presenting evidence of Noah's extraordinary progress under Megan's care. Richard, who had been notified abroad, rushed back, but he was barred from seeing his own son by court order. "This is insane," he shouted outside the gates of his own home. "Noah is my son." "The law is clear, Mr. Anderson," the security guard, embarrassed, explained. "Until the hearing, Mrs. Victoria has full custody." Inside the mansion, Noah had regressed terribly. He refused to interact with the new therapists Victoria brought in. His brief verbal breakthrough had vanished, replaced by stony silence. "See?" Victoria told the hired doctor. "It was all an illusion. The maid created false hope." But Dr. Roberts, a specialist in child development, wasn't convinced. "Mrs. Anderson, the videos I saw show real progress. Why dismiss the person who achieved these results? Because they weren't sustainable. A maid can't replace qualified professionals. What if she can? What if emotional connection matters more than diplomas? That's absurd." The doctor observed Noah, noticing how the boy obsessively drew symbols resembling letters from different alphabets. "May I try something?" Victoria waved dismissively. Dr. Roberts approached Noah and, surprisingly, began speaking in basic Mandarin. Noah lifted his head for the first time in days, eyes wide. "Do you understand what I'm saying?" the doctor asked in Mandarin. Noah waved vigorously, then grabbed his tablet and typed a complex response in Chinese characters. "My God," the doctor murmured. "Mrs. Anderson, your son doesn't just understand Mandarin. He writes with the proficiency of an educated adult. That's impossible." "It's extraordinary. Who was the woman working with him?" "Just some cleaning lady. A cleaning lady who unlocked a linguistic genius." "Ma'am, with all due respect, you made a terrible mistake." Victoria stormed out furiously, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Meanwhile, Megan wasn't sitting idle. With Mrs. Margaret's support, she had sought out experts in child development and linguistics. "It's fascinating," said Dr. Zhang, a linguistics professor at MIT, after reviewing the videos of Noah. "The boy displays hyperpolyglot abilities, something extremely rare. Hyperpolyglottism. The ability to learn multiple languages with extreme ease. It's usually associated with exceptional minds. With the right stimulation, this child could become one of the world's greatest linguists." "Would you testify to that in court?" Mrs. Margaret asked. "Gladly. It would be criminal to deprive this child of proper development." The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The whole city was talking about the Anderson family case. On one side, the concerned wife trying to protect the family's interests. On the other, the unstable husband who had entrusted his son to a housekeeper. But Noah had his own plans. The night before the hearing, he executed something he'd been secretly plotting. Using the tablet Victoria had forgotten to confiscate, he accessed the family's social media and posted a video. In the video, recorded by himself, Noah showcased his skills. He wrote sentences in 12 different languages, showing the translation for each. At the end, with Herculean effort, he spoke. Me, I want, me, gan. The video went viral within hours. Genius Boy, prevented from seeing his teacher, became a trending topic. Journalists began swarming the mansion. Public opinion turned overwhelmingly against Victoria. "How did he do this?" Victoria screamed in panic. "He doesn't know how to use social media." But underestimating Noah was her constant mistake. The boy had learned by observing, just as he had learned languages, and his silent message echoed louder than any shout. On the morning of the hearing, the courtroom was packed. Megan sat beside Mrs. Margaret, her heart racing. Richard was on the other side, legally barred from getting too close to Victoria. "Your Honor," Victoria's lawyer began, "we're here because Mr. Richard Anderson showed clear signs of mental instability by entrusting the education of a special needs child to an unqualified cleaning lady." "Objection," Richard's lawyer interrupted. "Ms. Megan Taylor has produced extraordinary results documented by experts." Judge Thompson nodded. "Let's hear the witnesses." The parade began. Doctors hired by Victoria testified about the dangers of false hope. Experts brought by Richard highlighted Noah's undeniable progress. But the pivotal moment came when Noah himself was brought into the courtroom. Victoria had objected, but the judge insisted on seeing the child at the center of the dispute. Noah entered in his wheelchair, pushed by a court assistant. His eyes immediately searched for Megan, and when he found her, his face lit up. "Noah," the judge addressed him gently, "do you understand what's happening here?" Noah nodded and typed on his tablet. "Yes, they're deciding if I can keep learning with Megan." "And what do you want?" Noah's response was to display a presentation he had prepared, page after page of texts in different languages, all expressing the same message. Megan taught me to speak to the world. Please don't take her away from me. There were texts in Mandarin, Japanese, Arabic, Hebrew, Russian, Hindi, Swahili, Italian, Spanish, German, and French, each one perfectly written, grammatically correct. The courtroom fell into absolute silence. "Mrs. Anderson," the judge addressed Victoria, "do you see what your son is capable of?" It's a trick," she stammered. "Someone helped him." "Who?" "You yourself said he's been isolated these past 2 weeks." Noah typed something new. "Mom is afraid of me, she always has been, because I'm not the perfect son she wanted, but Megan loves me as I am." Victoria began to cry. "This isn't fair. You're making me look like a monster." "No one is doing anything, Victoria," Richard said, breaking protocol. "You did this yourself." "Order!" The judge banged the gavel. "Let's maintain decorum. Noah, can you tell me in your own words, even if written, what Megan means to you?" Noah began typing. The words appeared on the tablet screen and were read aloud by the judge's assistant. "Megan was the first person who looked at me and saw Noah, not the wheelchair. She didn't see a problem to be fixed or a shame to be hidden. She saw a boy who wanted to communicate. Mom loves me in her own way, but it's a love that hurts because it comes with conditions. Megan's love is free, that's what I want." The entire courtroom was moved. Even some of Victoria's lawyers seemed touched. "Your Honor," Mrs. Margaret requested permission to speak. "May I add something?" "Proceed, Mrs. Anderson." "I'm Richard's mother and Victoria's mother-in-law. I've known them both for many years. What's happening here isn't about my son's mental capacity. It's about fear. Victoria is afraid that Noah is special because it means she'll have to be special too. It's easier to keep a child limited than to rise to meet an extraordinary child." "That's a lie," Victoria exploded. "Is it?" Mrs. Margaret stared at her. "Then why did you never learn a single language to communicate better with your son?" "Megan learned 12 in 3 weeks just to understand him. What does that say about the two of you?" The silence was deafening. The judge withdrew to deliberate. Half an hour later, he returned with a decision. "This court finds that Mr. Richard Anderson is of sound mind. More than that, he has demonstrated wisdom in recognizing and supporting his son's extraordinary talent. Custody of Noah remains shared, but with one condition: Mrs. Megan Taylor must continue as the child's educational tutor, under the supervision of child development specialists." The relief on Megan's face was visible. Noah practically vibrated in his chair. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "I strongly recommend family therapy for all involved. Noah needs united parents, not a battlefield." Victoria left the courtroom without a word. Richard rushed to embrace his son, and Megan joined them, forming a circle of affection Noah so desperately needed. But the victory in court was only the beginning of a much longer journey. Back at the mansion, the atmosphere was tense. Victoria had locked herself in her quarters, refusing to speak to anyone. Richard tried to establish a new routine, but the ghosts of conflict still lingered in the halls. "Megan," Richard called her aside for a private conversation. "I need to be honest with you, Victoria won't accept this easily. She's complicated." "I understand, Mr. Richard, but my commitment is to Noah." "I know. And that's why I need to tell you something. Victoria has a history of depression. After Noah was born, she developed severe postpartum depression that was never properly treated. She refused to go to therapy, said it was a sign of weakness. Megan felt an unexpected wave of compassion. That explains a lot. It doesn't excuse how she treated Noah, but it's complicated. She sees in Noah everything that went wrong in her life, the dream she had to abandon, the perfect family she couldn't build. What did she dream of being? A ballerina. She was very talented, but her family forced her to marry young, have children, be the perfect wife. When Noah was born, with paralysis, it was as if the universe was mocking her. Megan processed the information. How many layers of pain existed in that house? Maybe I can help with this too. How? Let me try something. The next day, Megan introduced a new activity with Noah: music and movement. Even in his wheelchair, the boy could move his arms, his head, express himself through his body. "Let's learn how different cultures express emotions through dance," she explained. Noah loved the idea. Soon they were watching videos of traditional dances from around the world. Megan explained how each movement had meaning, how the body could speak without words. The sound of music drew Victoria, who watched hidden by the door. "In some cultures," Megan explained, "dance is a way of telling stories. Look how this Russian ballerina tells the story of a swan without saying a word." Noah tried to imitate the movements with his arms, creating his own interpretation. It was clumsy but full of feeling. Victoria stepped away, tears silently falling. That night she sought Megan in the kitchen. "What were you doing today with Noah? Teaching him about body language in different cultures?" "Movement is also a language. Did you know I used to dance? Mr. Richard mentioned something." Victoria sat down, looking vulnerable for the first time. "I was good, really good. My teacher said I could have gone professional, but my father said ballet wasn't a proper career for a respectable young woman. It must have been hard to give up your dream." "It was, and when Noah was born," she paused, struggling with the words. "When we found out he'd never walk, never dance, it was like my dream died all over again." "But he can dance, Mrs. Victoria, just not in the conventional way." "What do you mean?" "Come with me tomorrow. Let me show you." Victoria hesitated, then agreed. The next day, for the first time in weeks, mother and son were in the same room without hostility. Megan had prepared something special. "Today we'll learn about Indian hand dancing called mudras. These are gestures that tell whole stories." She demonstrated delicate hand movements, each with a specific meaning. Noah tried to imitate, focused. "This one means flower blooming," Megan explained. "This is love. This is courage." Victoria watched, fascinated despite herself. "Noah, how about creating your own dance, one that tells your story?" The boy thought, then began moving his hands, movements that clearly meant chair, books, languages, Megan, and surprisingly, mommy. "What is he saying?" Victoria asked, her voice breaking. Noah typed on his tablet, "I'm saying that even stuck in my chair, I can fly with words. And even when mommy is far away, I still love her." Victoria collapsed into tears. "My son, my baby, and forgive me. Mommy was so lost in her own pain she didn't see yours. It was a breaking point." The walls Victoria had built began to crumble. She hesitantly approached Noah, who reached out his arms to her. The hug that followed was wet with tears and years of hurt, but also with hope. Can I learn with you?" Victoria asked timidly. Megan smiled. "Of course you can. Noah would be an excellent teacher." And so began a new chapter. Victoria, little by little, joined their sessions. She discovered she had a knack for Spanish and Italian, languages she considered musical. Noah was overjoyed teaching his mother, reversing traditional roles. Richard, seeing the family come together, felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "Megan, you didn't just save my son, you saved my family." "I only showed what was already there, Mr. Richard. The love was always present, it was just lost in translation." Weeks turned into months. Noah progressed spectacularly. With his emotional support restored, his abilities flourished even more. By age 7, he was reading complex literature in multiple languages and beginning to develop his own theories about language acquisition. Experts from around the world grew interested in his case. Offers for documentaries, academic studies, and even international scholarships poured in constantly. But it was one specific offer that changed everything. "A school in Switzerland," Richard announced at dinner, "specializing in children with high abilities and special needs. They want Noah." The silence at the table was heavy. "Does that mean Dick moving to Switzerland?" Victoria asked. "It would be best for his development. They have resources we don't have in the United States." Megan's heart tightened. After all this, would she lose Noah anyway? "What about Megan?" Noah typed immediately. "Is she coming too?" Richard hesitated. "That would be up to you, Megan. The school said maintaining continuity with you would be ideal. But my life is here. Megan said softly. My elderly mother, my brother. Noah grew restless, distressed sounds escaping his throat. Easy, sweetheart, Megan soothed him. We'll think of solutions, okay? But the solutions weren't simple. The Taylor family depended on Megan. Her mother, Mrs. Rose, had health issues. Her brother Peter, though working, needed constant support. Megan spent sleepless nights thinking. On one hand, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Noah. On the other, her own family responsibilities. It was Mrs. Rose who brought clarity. Daughter, you've told me about this boy every night for months. Your eyes light up when you talk about him. But Mom, what about you and Peter? We managed before you started working for the Andersons. We can manage again. It's not that simple. Nothing in life is simple, Megan. But sometimes the universe puts people in our path for a reason. That boy needs you. And I need you. And you'll always have me. Distance doesn't change love, dear. Haven't you been teaching Noah that? That love speaks all languages? Megan hugged her mother, crying. The decision was made in an expanded family meeting. Mrs. Margaret, ever practical, proposed a solution. The Anderson family can arrange care for Mrs. Rose and Peter, bring them for regular visits to Switzerland. And Megan will receive a salary that allows everyone to live comfortably. I don't want charity, Megan said firmly. It's not charity, Richard interjected. It's an investment. You're essential to my son's development. That's priceless. And there's something else, Victoria added, surprising everyone. Megan, you could study in Switzerland too. Get a degree in linguistics or special education. The family would cover all costs. Megan stared at her, stunned by the generosity. Why would you do that for me? Because you gave me back my son. And you taught me how to be a mother. That's beyond price. Noah, who had been following everything, typed, Please, Megan, I'm scared without you. How could she resist that? The preparations for the move were intense. Documentation, visas, medical arrangements for Noah, accommodations. The bureaucracy seemed endless. But there was another challenge, preparing Noah emotionally for the change. Is it far from the United States? He asked through his tablet. Yes, sweetheart, it is. But think of it this way, you'll get to learn even more languages. Switzerland has 4 official languages. Noah's eyes sparkled at the possibility. And will we come back to visit? Whenever we can. What about Grandma Rose? And Uncle Peter? Megan smiled. Noah had met her family a few times and formed a special bond with Peter, who treated him as an equal, not as a child with disabilities. They'll visit us, and we can video call every day. Noah seemed to consider it. Okay, but do you promise never to leave me? I promise to stay as long as you need me. Then it'll be forever, he typed with childlike conviction. Leaving. The United States was bittersweet. The mansion that had been the setting for so many conflicts and discoveries would be sold. The staff, many of whom had witnessed Noah's transformation, said their goodbyes with tears. Deborah, the head housekeeper, who had once been so harsh with Megan, sought her out. I'm sorry, she said simply. I was wrong. You showed there are no limits when there's real love. We were all learning, Megan replied graciously. At the airport, Mrs. Rose and Peter bid them farewell. Take good care of the boy, Mrs. Rose said, and take care of yourself too. Mom, I'll miss you so much. We miss the dead, my child. With the living we feel longing, and longing is love that crosses distance. Peter, with his simple wisdom, hugged Megan. Sis, you're doing something. Beautiful. Noah needs you. I'll be fine, I promise. I love you, Peter. I love you too. Always. The flight to Switzerland was Megan's first time on a plane. Noah, sensing her nervousness, held her hand. Don't be scared, he typed. We're together. The role reversal touched Megan deeply. How many times had she comforted Noah? Now it was his turn to comfort her. You know, Victoria said from the seat beside them, I never imagined my life would take this turn. Regrets? Megan asked. Quite the opposite. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, that I'm the mother Noah deserves. You always were. You just needed to find your way. I have a gift for seeing the best in people, Megan. I learned from my mother. She always said everyone has light inside. Sometimes they just need someone to help it shine. Across the aisle, Richard watched his rebuilt family. The tough businessman had become a present and loving father. The distant wife had turned into a devoted mother, and at the center of it all, a cleaning woman who had proven to be an extraordinary educator. "Do you know what Noah told me yesterday?" he shared. "That he wants to create a teaching method for other kids like him. He doesn't want anyone else to be called incapable just because they communicate differently." At 7, he's already thinking of changing the world, Megan smiled. "Thanks to you. Thanks to all of us." It took a whole village to uncover the treasure that is Noah. Arriving in Switzerland was a mix of excitement and apprehension. The country was beautiful, snow-capped, mountains against a crystal blue sky. But it was so different from the United States. The school, Jefferson Institute, was impressive. Fully adapted for children with special needs, it had cutting-edge technology and a multidisciplinary team. "Welcome," said the director, Dr. Weber, in perfect English. "I've studied Noah's case extensively. It's an honor to have him with us." Noah quickly typed, "How many languages do you speak?" The director smiled. 8, fluently, but from what I've read, you'll surpass me soon." Noah grinned, the kind of smile that lit up the whole room. The adjustment wasn't easy. The cold, the unfamiliar food, the homesickness. But Noah threw himself into his studies with renewed enthusiasm. Beyond the languages he already knew, he began learning Italian, Romansh, and the various Swiss dialects. Megan, in turn, started her university studies. At 35, she found herself sitting in classrooms with people who could have been her children. But her practical experience with Noah made her an exceptional student. "You should write about your method," a professor suggested. "What you developed intuitively has a solid scientific foundation. I just followed what Noah needed." "Exactly. You started from necessity, not theory. That's revolutionary." The nights were dedicated to studying and video calls with the United States. Peter loved seeing the snow through the screen, and Mrs. Rose always asked if they were eating properly. But not everything was easy. Victoria, despite her progress, was still battling her demons. One particularly difficult night, Megan found her crying on the balcony. "What's wrong?" "Sometimes I wonder if Noah has really forgiven me, or if he's just being polite." "Why don't you ask him?" "I'm afraid of the answer. Fear has kept you apart for years. Maybe it's time to face it." The next day, Victoria mustered the courage for an honest conversation with her son. "Noah, Mom needs to know, have you forgiven me? Really?" Noah thought for a long time before typing, "Forgiving is a big word. I understand you were in pain, but sometimes it still hurts to remember. I think forgiving is a process, not a moment. We're in the process, Mom." The maturity of his response left Victoria speechless. How could a 7-year-old have so much wisdom? "I love you, son. The wrong way for a long time, but I've always loved you." "I know, Mom, that's why we're still here, trying." The first year in Switzerland flew by. Noah not only kept up with regular classes, but exceeded expectations. He began developing a pictographic communication system that could help other nonverbal children. "It's brilliant," said Dr. Nakamura, a specialist in alternative communication. "He's creating a universal bridge between languages and physical limitations." Megan watched with maternal pride, but she also felt the weight of responsibility. Noah depended on her emotionally, and she wondered if that was healthy. It was Richard who brought it up. "Megan, we need to talk about the future. Is something wrong?" "Quite the opposite. Noah is progressing beyond all expectations, but I worry about you." "About me?" "You've dedicated the last 2 years entirely to him. Now you're studying, caring for him, with no life of your own. That's not fair to you." Megan fell silent. It was true. She had no friends in Switzerland besides the Anderson family. No hobbies, no relationships, nothing but Noah and her studies. "I chose this, Mr. Richard. I know, but choices can be revisited. Noah is stronger now. He has other support at school. Maybe it's time for you to think about yourself." "Are you letting me go?" "God, no. I'm suggesting you find balance. Noah needs to learn independence too, and you need to live." The conversation planted a seed of reflection. Megan began noticing how much she had erased herself. She was Megan, Noah's tutor, but who was Megan, the person? She decided to make small changes. She joined a book club, started exploring the city on weekends, made friends with other expatriates. Noah noticed the changes. "You're different," he typed one day. "Different how?" "Happier, but also more distant." "I'm not distant, my love. I'm just learning to be myself too." "Will you leave me?" "Never. But I need to exist beyond you too. Understand?" Noah thought. "Like Mom is learning to exist beyond sadness?" His insight always surprised her. Exactly like that. "Okay, but promise you'll always love me?" "That doesn't even need a promise. It's an absolute certainty." The second year brought new challenges. Noah, now 8, began feeling his differences more acutely. He saw other children running, playing soccer, and his frustration grew. "Why me?" he typed on a particularly difficult afternoon. "Why can't I be normal?" Megan took a deep breath. It was a question she had been expecting for a long time. "What is normal, Noah?" "Walking, running, speaking without help." "And would that make you happier?" "Maybe. Or maybe you'd lose what makes you unique. Your brilliant mind, your sensitivity, your ability to understand the world in ways others can't. But it's lonely to be unique." "I know, my love, but you're not alone." It was Victoria who had a brilliant idea. She began researching. Other children like Noah around the world, children with exceptional abilities and physical limitations. "I found 5, she announced one evening. "In the United Kingdom, Japan, South Africa, India, and Australia. All non-verbal or with speech limitations, all showing exceptional skills in different areas." "What are you suggesting?" Richard asked. "A meeting, a conference. Bring..." These children and their families together create a support network. Noah was electrified by the idea. He immediately began learning the native languages of the other children to communicate better. The planning took months, but it finally happened. The first international gathering of exceptional youth, hosted in Geneva. Seeing Noah interact with other children like him was transformative. For the first time, he wasn't the different one. He was among peers. "Look," he typed excitedly to Megan, "Yuna from Japan speaks through drawings, and Vikram from India composes mathematical music." Mathematical music. He turns equations into melodies. It's incredible. Megan watched with tears in her eyes. Noah had found his tribe. The gathering was such a success that they decided to make it annual. Noah was chosen as a junior ambassador, responsible for keeping in touch with all the children throughout the year. "My son, the diplomat," Richard joked. "Don't laugh," Victoria gently scolded him. "He's building bridges between worlds. It's literally diplomacy." Life moved at a new pace. Noah grew not just intellectually, but emotionally. Megan completed her first year of college with exceptional grades. Victoria found purpose organizing events for special children. Richard learned to balance work and family. But life has ways of testing our resilience. The call came in the middle of a winter night. Mrs. Rose had suffered a heart attack. Critical condition. Megan panicked. She was thousands of miles away, while her mother fought for her life. "Go," Richard said immediately. "We'll take the first flight." "But Noah!" "Noah understands. Go." The trip back to the United States was a blur of anxiety. Noah held Megan's hand the whole time, his eyes full of worry. At the hospital, Peter was waiting for her, his face streaked with tears. "Sis." "Mom's not doing well." Megan rushed to the ICU. Mrs. Rose was hooked up to multiple machines, her face pale but serene. "Mom," Megan whispered, holding her hand. "I'm here." Mrs. Rose's eyes slowly opened. "My daughter, you came." "Of course I did." "And the boy?" "He's here too. He wants to see you." After much negotiation, they got permission for a brief visit from Noah. He entered in his chair, his face serious. Approaching the bed, he typed something and showed the tablet to Mrs. Rose. Grandma Rose, thank you for letting Megan take care of me. I promise to take care of her too. Mrs. Rose smiled weakly. Good boy, I'd take care of my daughter. The following days were a vigil. Megan alternated between the hospital and the apartment, caring for Peter and monitoring her mother's recovery. Noah was surprising. He took on the role of caregiver, making sure Megan ate and rested. He used his multiple languages to communicate with the hospital's international medical staff. Your son is extraordinary, a nurse remarked. He's not my son, Megan corrected, automatically then stopped. I mean, it's complicated. Love isn't complicated, the nurse smiled. And this boy clearly loves you like a mother. The observation echoed in Megan's mind. Mrs. Rose recovered slowly. 2 weeks later, she was out of danger but still fragile. You need to go back, she told Megan. Your life is there. Now, but you... Peter is here, the neighbors help, and now I know you can come if I really need you. I'm afraid to leave you, Thurston, and I'm afraid you'll lose your life because of me. Go, my dear. Live. The goodbye was even harder this time. Mrs. Rose's mortality had become real, tangible. I promise to visit more often, Megan said. And I promise to take better care of my heart, Mrs. Rose replied. I want to live to see what this boy becomes. Back in Switzerland, Megan reflected on everything: the fragility of life, the strength of family bonds, the definition of family. Megan, Noah typed one night, "Can I call you Mom?" Megan froze. Noah, you have a mother, Victoria. I know, but can I have two? Some kids have two dads. Why not two moms? It's different. Why? You love me like a mother. I love you like a son. Why do labels matter? What would your parents say? I already asked. Dad said the heart has infinite space for love. Mum said it would be an honor to share the title with you. Megan began to cry. Noah stretched out his arms and she hugged him. Then yes, she whispered. It would be an honor to be your mom too. Mom Megan, Noah typed, testing it out. I like it. The shift was subtle but profound. Megan was no longer the tutor. She was a mother. Co-mom, as Victoria began to joke without jealousy. We're a modern family, Victoria said at a school meeting where they had to explain their dynamic. Noah is blessed to have two mums who love him. The following years were ones of steady growth. Noah, at 10 years old, was already fluent in 15 languages and working on his universal communication system. Universities, publishers, and international organizations showed interest. Megan graduated with honors and began a master's degree. Her thesis on multilingual education for children with special needs drew international academic attention. You should give lectures, her advisor suggested. Share your experience. I'm not good at public speaking. The woman who transformed the life of a child once considered incapable is afraid of public speaking? He laughed. Megan, you have a powerful message. The world needs to hear it. The first lecture was terrifying. Megan stood in an auditorium with 200 people, all waiting for her wisdom. I was a cleaner, she began, her voice shaking. I cleaned houses to support my family. I never imagined I'd be here speaking to educators and experts, but life taught me that labels are prisons we build for ourselves and others. She told Noah's story, how a boy in a wheelchair taught her about the infinite human capacity to overcome, how love and patience could break barriers medicine once called insurmountable. The auditorium erupted in applause. Invitations for more lectures poured in. I'm proud of you, Noah typed after watching online. My mom Megan is a star. You're my star, she replied. I just reflect your light. But success came at a cost. With travel for lectures and academic commitments, Megan had less and less time for Noah. You're disappearing, he typed on a particularly hard day. I'm not disappearing, I'm just busy. It's the same thing when you're the one left waiting. The blow landed true. Megan remembered all the times Noah had waited for his busy father, his distant mother. You're right. I'm sorry. I don't want apologies, I want you. Megan cancelled her next commitments. She spent the following week entirely dedicated to Noah, just like in the old days. You know, she said during a study session, I think I lost my way a little. It happens, Noah typed with wisdom beyond his years. What matters is finding your way back. How did you get so wise? I had good teachers. 2 amazing mums. Family harmony was tested again when Richard received an offer he couldn't refuse, expanding the business to Asia, but that would mean being based in Singapore for at least 2 years. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, he explained during a family meeting. But I won't do anything without consensus. What about Noah? Victoria asked. He's settled here. It could be an opportunity for him too, Richard argued. Immersion in even more cultures, more languages. Noah typed, I'd go if Megan comes with us. Everyone looked at Megan. I need to think. I just started my master's. There are excellent universities in Singapore, Richard said. We could arrange a transfer. And my mom, I'm already far away. Singapore would be even farther. We'll bring Mrs. Rose for long visits, Peter too. Megan, I'm not asking for a sacrifice. I'm offering an adventure. Megan asked for time to think. She called Mrs. Rose. Mom, what should I do? Whatever your heart tells you, dear. My heart is torn. I love Noah like a son, but I miss you every day. Megan, listen, when you were little, you dreamed of seeing the world, remember? You said you'd visit every country, learn every language. Childhood dreams. No, your dreams. The ones you put aside to take care of me and Peter. But now the universe is giving you a chance. Go, my dear. Live your dreams. I'll be here when you return. What if something happens? Something always happens. That's life. But we can't live in fear of what might be. We have to live what is. With Mrs. Rose's blessing, Megan agreed. The move to Singapore would be another adventure in their already extraordinary journey. Noah was thrilled. He immediately started studying Malay, Singaporean Mandarin, Tamil, and various local dialects. Singapore has 4 official languages. He typed excitedly. It's a linguistic paradise. Preparations were intense. This time they weren't just changing countries but continents. Asian culture was vastly different from European. It'll be a culture shock, warned a friend who lived in Singapore. But it's an amazing city. Noah will love it. At the farewell party at the Swiss school, Noah did something surprising. With help, he stood up from his chair and, holding on to Megan and Victoria, took a few shaky steps. The entire gym held its breath. "No, Noah!" Megan exclaimed. "When did you—" He smiled and typed, "Secret physical therapy. Wanted to surprise you. Still can't do much, but it's a start." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The boy everyone said would never walk was standing, smiling triumphantly. "This is just the beginning," he typed. "In Singapore, I'll get even stronger." The trip to Singapore was long but full of anticipation. Noah spent the entire flight studying maps, demographics, and local history. "Did you know Singapore has one of the highest linguistic diversities in the world?" he shared. "I'll get to practice everything." Arrival was an assault on the senses. The humid heat, exotic smells, the mix of ultra-modern architecture with ancient traditions. It was a whole new world. The house Richard had rented was spectacular, a penthouse overlooking Battery Park, fully adapted for Noah's needs. "This is incredible," Megan murmured. "Only the best for my family," Richard said simply. Adaptation was surprisingly smooth. Singapore, with its efficiency and diversity, welcomed their unique family without question. At the international school, Noah found an environment even more diverse than in Switzerland. "We have students from 60 nationalities," the director explained. "Noah will feel right at home." And he did. Within weeks, he had made friends from every continent. His wheelchair wasn't a barrier in a place where differences were celebrated. Megan, meanwhile, immersed herself in academic life at Columbia University. Her research project on multilingual communication immediately caught the department's attention. "Are you working with the young prodigy?" asked Dr. Park, the department head. "Noah Anderson is famous in linguistic circles." "He's my son," Megan said, still getting used to the word. "Then you are doubly blessed, as a mother and as a researcher." Victoria found her own niche organizing cultural events for the expatriate community. She discovered a talent for bringing people of different backgrounds together. "Who would have thought," she laughed one evening, "the empty socialite has become a cultural ambassador?" "You were never empty," Megan said, "just lost." Thank you for helping me find myself. The months in Singapore flew by. Noah made extraordinary progress, not just linguistically but physically. Intensive therapy combined with the warm climate helped his muscles. "Look," he called to Megan one day, standing on his own for nearly a minute. "Oh my goodness, Noah, you're getting stronger." "I want to dance," he typed. "One day I want to dance with both my moms." "And you will," Victoria said, walking in at that moment. "We'll dance together, my love." It was at a school event that everything changed again. Noah was presenting his universal communication system to interested investors when he began to feel unwell. "Noah?" Megan noticed first. "Are you okay?" He was pale, sweating. Before he could answer, he fainted. The hospital was controlled chaos. Tests, doctors rushing, machines beeping. The family waited in agony. "It's an infection," the doctor finally explained. "A serious one. His immune system is compromised. We need to act fast." The next 48 hours were critical. Noah fought the infection while his family took turns by his side. "Please, God," Victoria prayed. "Not now, not when he's finally living fully." Megan held Noah's hand, softly singing songs Mrs. Rose used to sing to her as a child. Richard paced the halls, making desperate calls to specialists around the world. It was Mrs. Margaret who brought perspective, arriving unexpectedly after a 30-hour flight. "That boy is a fighter," she declared. "He won't give up now." And he didn't. On the third day, the fever broke. Noah opened his eyes, weak but determined. The first thing he did was reach for his tablet. With shaky hands, he typed, "We still have so much work to do. I can't stop now." The recovery was slow but steady. The scare served as a warning about Noah's fragility, but also his strength. "He's like a phoenix," one doctor remarked, "always rising stronger." During his convalescence, Noah had time to reflect. One day he called Megan for a serious talk. "Mom, Megan, I need to tell you something." "What is it, sweetheart?" "I know. You sacrificed so much for me. Your career as a cleaner, your life in the United States, everything. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was a choice, the best one I ever made. But now I want you to choose yourself too. I want you to finish your masters, get your PhD, become the amazing professor you can be." "Noah, I'll be okay. I have Mom Victoria, Dad, Grandma Margaret. You taught me to fly. Now it's your turn to fly too." Megan cried, moved by his maturity. "We'll fly together," she said, "each at our own pace, but always connected." Life in Singapore continued, more precious now with the awareness of its fragility. Noah returned to his studies with renewed vigor, determined to complete his communication system. At 12 years old, he presented it at a UN conference on inclusion. "My system," he explained, now able to speak short sentences with the help of a voice synthesizer, "allows any child, regardless of physical limitations or linguistic background, to communicate. It's a bridge between worlds." The presentation was a resounding success. Implementation proposals came from dozens of countries. "My son is changing the world," Richard said, tears in his eyes. "Our son," Victoria corrected, taking Megan's hand, "raised by a village but especially by two mothers who never gave up." Megan watched it all with a mix of pride and nostalgia. The baby she had found crying alone in a mansion had become a young man who would give a voice to thousands of other silenced children. The success of Noah's system opened unimaginable doors. Invitations for lectures, consultations, collaborations with the world's top institutions. "It's a lot to process," Noah typed one night after yet another $1 million offer. "How do you feel?" Megan asked. "Grateful, but also scared." "Scared of what?" "Losing what matters. Family, love, simplicity." "Then don't lose it. Success is a tool, not the goal. You always know what to say, Mom Megan. I learned from the best teacher, you." The return to the United States came unexpectedly. Mrs. Rose had taken a turn for the worse, and Megan needed to be close. "We're all going," Richard decided. "Family doesn't separate in hard times." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The arrival in the United States was bittersweet. Seeing Mrs. Rose, frail but still lucid, was a shock. "My daughter," she said when she saw Megan, "I'm so glad you came." "I'm here to stay, Mom, for as long as you need." "And the boy? He's here too, the whole family." Noah entered the room slowly, now able to walk short distances with support. He approached the bed and with effort stood up. "Grandma Rose," he said, his voice still robotic from the synthesizer, but full of emotion. "Thank you for giving me..." "Mom, Megan," Mrs. Rose cried. "Blessed boy, you gave my daughter's life purpose. She gave purpose to mine." The following days were a loving vigil. The family settled in a nearby hotel, taking turns visiting. Peter spent hours telling Noah about his days, and the boy listened with genuine attention. "Noah is good," Peter told Megan. "He really listens to me." "He loves you, Peter. I love him too. He's my nephew in my heart." It was on a sunny afternoon that Mrs. Rose called Megan. "Daughter, I need to ask you something." "Anything, Mom. Take care of Peter, and let the boy Noah help. He has a gift for understanding people who are different." "I'll always take care of Peter, Mom." "I know, but now you have resources, knowledge. You can give him opportunities I never could. You gave love. That's worth more than anything." "Love with opportunity is even better," Mrs. Rose smiled, weakly. That night, with the whole family gathered in the room, Mrs. Rose passed away peacefully. Her last words were of gratitude for the full life she had lived. The grief was deep but serene. Megan, supported by her two families, found the strength to organize everything. Noah was a pillar of support, using his multiple languages to comfort each person in the way they needed. "She's at peace," he told Megan. "Grandma Rose lived to see her dreams come true." "What dreams?" "Seeing you happy, seeing you fly." The funeral was a celebration of life. People from the entire community came to pay tribute to the woman who had raised two extraordinary children with love and dignity. Peter, in his touching simplicity, gave the eulogy. "Mom was light, now she's a star. Shine up there, watch over us down here." There wasn't a dry eye in sight. After the funeral, decisions had to be made. Peter couldn't stay alone. "He's coming with us," Megan said firmly. "To Singapore?" Richard asked. "Wherever we go. He's my family." "Our family," Victoria corrected. "Peter is always welcome." Noah beamed. "Uncle Peter living with us, it's gonna be amazing." Peter's integration into life in Singapore was surprisingly smooth. He loved the warmth, the diverse food, the kindness of people. He found work at a community center, helping with gardening. "Peter happy," he'd say every day. "Family together, Peter happy." Noah and Peter developed their own routine. Every afternoon after school, they'd talk about their day. Peter taught patience and simplicity. Noah taught new words in different languages. "You know how much I understand, Uncle Peter," Noah said one day, "about being different." "Different is good," Peter replied. "World boring if everyone's same." "Exactly. That's why I'm creating my system, so different people can talk." Noah smart, Peter proud. Life settled into a new rhythm. Megan graduated with honors from her master's and began her doctorate. Her research on linguistic inclusion gained international recognition. Victoria became an active voice in the community of parents with special needs children. Her talks on acceptance and transformation touched hearts. Richard, inspired by his son, redirected part of his business toward assistive technologies. "Hospitals that heal both body and dignity," he'd say. And Noah flourished. At 13, his communication system was adopted by schools in 20 countries. He traveled, always with Megan or Victoria, to train teachers and inspire other children. But it was at an event in New York City that the circle closed in a poetic way. Noah had been invited to speak at a conference on inclusive education. The event was held at the same hotel where years earlier, Megan had worked as a cleaner before moving to the Anderson mansion. "This is where it all began," Megan murmured as they entered the lobby. "No," Noah corrected, now speaking more fluently through his updated device. "It began when you chose to see me. The place was just the setting." Noah's speech was transformative. He told his story, but more importantly, he told Megan's. "My mother Megan taught me There are no insurmountable barriers, only people who haven't found the right bridge yet. She was my bridge. Now I want to be a bridge for others. In the audience, a woman wept. It was Deborah, Megan's former boss. Is that? Victoria noticed. Yes, Megan confirmed. I'll talk to her. The reunion was emotional. Megan, forgive me, Deborah said through tears. I was so blind. We all were. What matters is we learned. You changed the world. No, I just helped. One child. It's Noah who's changing the world. Success kept growing. Noah's system was nominated for international awards. Universities offered full scholarships for whenever he chose to study. Tech companies sought partnerships, but at home, he was still just Noah. Mother Megan, he called out one night, can I tell you a secret? Always. Sometimes. I miss when it was just the two of us. You teaching me learning, without all this pressure. I miss it too, but you know what I've learned? What? That love multiplies. It doesn't divide. We have more people to love, more lives to touch. But what we have, you and me, that never changes. Promise? I promise. You'll always be my first miracle, and you'll always be my first real mother. They embraced, and for a moment they were transported back to that room in the mansion, where a cleaner saw genius, where others saw limitation. The years kept passing. Noah grew not just in age but in impact. At 15, his system was the standard in special education worldwide. By 16, he spoke 22 languages fluently and was developing artificial intelligence for emotional translation. I want machines to understand not just what we say but what we feel, he explained. Megan, now a respected doctor and university professor, watched with infinite pride. Remember when you just wanted someone to understand your screams? She asked. I remember, and you understood. Now I want everyone to have someone who understands. You've become that someone for millions. I learned from the best. Noah's high school graduation was an event. Not only did he graduate as class valedictorian, but he also delivered his speech in 7 different languages. To show that communication has no borders, he explained. At the celebration dinner, the family was complete. Richard, Victoria, Megan, Peter, and Mrs. Margaret, now 85 but still formidable. A toast, Richard proposed. To Megan, who saw a diamond where others saw a rock. To Victoria, Megan countered, who had the courage to change. To Richard, Victoria continued, who chose love over pride. To Mrs. Margaret, Noah added, who kept everyone in line. To Peter, Peter said, surprising everyone, who is just Peter. They laughed, cried, and embraced. And to Noah, Megan concluded, who taught us that limits exist to be overcome. No, Noah corrected. To love, it speaks all languages and knows no bounds. As the night deepened and stories were shared, Megan reflected on their journey. From the invisible janitor to the mother of a revolutionary, from the boy screaming alone to the young man giving voice to millions. You know, Noah said, joining her on the balcony, I've been thinking about my next project. What would that be? A school for kids like me, where Megans of the world can find their Noahs and Noahs can find their Megans. That's an ambitious project. I've learned that ambition without love is empty, but love with ambition can change the world. When did you get so wise? The day a janitor knelt to my level and said, Noah, do you understand what I'm saying? Megan embraced her son, her heart's son, life's son, destiny's son. I love you, Noah. I love you, Mom Megan, in every language in the world, and those we've yet to invent. The stars shone over Singapore, silent witnesses to a story that began with misunderstanding and blossomed into universal love. Noah's dream school became a reality 2 years later. The Bridges Academy, with its first campus in New York City, opened with the mission of connecting special children with extraordinary educators. Megan was the first principal, bringing her practical and academic experience. Victoria handled family integration, Richard ensured financial sustainability, Peter was the official uncle to all the children, and Noah, now 18 and walking, with the support of a cane, was the mentor and inspiration. At the inauguration, hundreds of families attended. Children in wheelchairs with autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, all finding a place where their abilities mattered more than their limitations. "This is just the beginning," Noah said in his speech. "Every child here holds a universe inside. Our job is to give them the tools to share that universe with the world." A little girl in the front row, maybe 7 years old, in a wheelchair, similar to the one Noah once used, raised her hand. "Can I learn languages like you?" she asked through a tablet. Noah knelt beside her, just as Megan had done with him years before. "You can learn anything your heart desires. What's your name?" "Sophie." "Sophie, you just taught me something. That history repeats itself, but always with new beauty. Welcome to your new adventure." Megan watched, tears streaming. The circle was complete, but it was also a new beginning. That night at home, Noah sought out Megan. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I got an offer. Princeton University wants to give me a special chair. I'd be their youngest professor in history." "Noah, that's incredible. But it means going to the United Kingdom, leaving the school, leaving you." Megan held his hands. "My love, you taught me that love knows no distance. Go, conquer the world. I'll always be here and you'll always be with me." "What about the school?" "The school has your seed planted. Other Megans and Noahs will carry on the work. You need to fly higher now. I learned to fly from you, and now you have your own wings. Use them." The farewell at the airport was emotional but not sad. It was a celebration of achievements and the promise of future victories. "Mom, Megan," Noah said, hugging her tightly, "thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for teaching me that giving up was never an option. I love you. I love you too. In English, French, Mandarin, and all the languages you'll yet create." As the plane took off, Megan didn't feel loss. She felt infinite pride. The boy the world once deemed incapable was now going to teach at the most prestigious university in the world. Victoria held her hand. "We did well, didn't we? We did more than well. We made history. And now? Now we continue. There's a Sophie waiting for her Megan, and so many other children waiting for their bridges. Together? Always together, that's what family is." They returned to the school where Peter greeted them with a huge smile. "Noah has flown," he said, "but family remains. It always remains." And it did. Bridges Academy expanded. Noah's system evolved. Lives were transformed. Years later, when Noah returned to the United States to receive an international award, he made sure Megan joined him on stage. "This woman," he told the audience of thousands, "taught me life's most important lesson. There are no limited people, only people limited by a lack of love and understanding. She gave me both, and because of that, I can now give to the world." Megan, now with silver hair but the same warm smile, hugged her son of the heart. "I always knew you were special," she whispered. "Only because you made me believe I was." "No, I just removed the blindfold so you could see what was always there." The auditorium erupted in applause. But for Megan and Noah, the sweetest sound was the shared silence of two souls who found each other when they needed it most and never let go. The story of a janitor who became a mother, educator, and revolutionary. The story of a boy who turned limitation into liberation. The story of a family that learned love has no language. It is the universal language. And somewhere in New York City, in a classroom full of special children, a new Megan knelt before a new Noah, ready to begin another miracle. Because miracles happen every day. We just need the eyes to see and the hearts to believe. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. Do you believe in the transformative power of love and education? Do we all have a Megan inside us, waiting to see the extraordinary in the seemingly ordinary? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories.